Microphone test. Microphone test. Test. Currently looking at some sea temperatures that are quite alarming. Each gulf around the entire planet, our only planet, is nearing a temperature of 90 degrees Fahrenheit or over 33 degrees Celsius. The biggest Gulf temperature difference is in the Persian Gulf, over here by Saudi Arabia, the UAE. This is seeing temperatures over 90 degrees. This boils shellfish in their shells. This is a slow, horrible death for billions and billions of sea creatures and other animals that rely on the oceans for sustenance. Like humans. This is the Persian Gulf. Temperatures over 90 degrees Fahrenheit, 33 degrees Celsius. Very dangerous, uncharted territories that we are finding ourselves. We want to be global in everything that we do because the market is that much bigger and we can't ignore it. This is something that this is happening now. It is not going away while we are actively making it worse. Gulf of California, temperature, some spots over 85 degrees. Definitely water entering this warmer that's going to push out any of the colder water. Eventually hitting a temperature of 90 degrees or 33 degrees Celsius, causing a chain reaction of failures that is unstoppable. We weren't able to stop Alaskan snow crabs from going extinct because of these events. Heat domes extend all the way down into the ocean seafloor. Clouds don't cover up this kind of activity. It is without mercy that we might see disaster strike Florida, Mexico, Texas, Louisiana. These temperature differences are absolutely unreal, but it being so consistent around each Gulf is the real horror story that's waiting. There's no safe place for marine life to swim. The other half of the Gulf isn't cooler. The bottom, they can't go lower in the Gulf because the temperature top to bottom, 6 degrees of freedom, is 90 degrees. If a human being were to try to sleep in a room that was 120 degrees, it might be uncomfortable. "90 degrees." So, Suez Canal, the Mediterranean and the Black Sea don't seem to be. It's a lot of carbon, it's a lot of heat. Heat moves around and gets trapped in places like in these gulfs. And the hot water stays, and it stays, and it stays. plankton blooms. There are a number of conditions that are just right for a dead bloom. A massive bloom of algae that steals the oxygen from surrounding areas. Algae blooms are supposed to be not rare, but not the size of an entire gulf that swallows up mussels and everything else in their wake. The animals that would eat the plankton are not going to be in the areas of the plankton because of it being so hot. The lack of empathy for living creatures, for even other human beings suffering, is beyond criminal. But it'll never get better. This is only getting worse. We're actively making it worse. And we actively fight people that try to actively help. No one wants to hear the bad news, but this is not going away. This is getting worse. First hurricane with these warm waters that the southern states sees could destroy coastlines in a way that we have not seen before. Florida has lost its coral support around itself. Florida is a lost cause. They have doomed themselves. However, currents seem to be making it further north, but not far enough. The currents in the Gulf of Mexico are primed, ready for some kind of potential. With this being such a backed up bottleneck of currents, amazingly haven't seen some kind of massive failure in a coastline. As you can see here, these currents tear earth out of the continent. This kind of current would rip off the cliffside face nearby. This is a hurricane under the sea. Very, very scary, but this is also near an area with high volcanism. Have the Mozambique Bay channel. The volcano, I believe, is right here, north of Moroni. Currents not moving much because if the water underneath is not cold, the water is not going to be able to flip itself around and transfer the cold water. There doesn't exist a pocket on this planet that is a gulf where the temperatures are anything relatively safe. This is happening now. Bahamas, all this area. Volcanism coming up near east of Dominican Republic. It's a lot of fears and woes and forecasts and predictions, and none of them are good. Suez Canal is just absolutely useless now. We've used it up. No one can transfer simply through the Suez Canal anymore. 1 year restriction on passing through the Suez Canal. And all these gulfs, especially here in the Pacific, is just a massive, massive heated up patch of ocean. There's nothing that we can do. There were probably things that we could have done to prevent such a cascade of failures to occur, and we knew dangers. We've seen in the Gulf of Mexico numerous oil drilling related failures. There's the one that burned bright. I fear for the future. I fear for future generations, knowing how hard previous generations have had it trying to change things actively before the forecast hits. This generation does not have the luxury. Anybody born over the age of 2000 does not have the luxury of living in a world where they're not frightened by everything. By the time they're in high school, they're learning just how fucking badly previous generations screwed everything up. We are always going to pay for the sins of our forebears. But the most alarming secret of our sins of our fathers are the number of concrete caskets that contain hundreds of thousands of tons of mustard gas and other types of weapons. They've been systematically dumped in the ocean in these large containers that are made out of concrete. Concrete, 30-year lifespan, but we're going to see a lot of very, very, very dead marine life because one of these containers filled with World War II mustard gas, Vietnam, Agent Orange. It's on every chart. Every navigation chart for the ocean will have these areas where they'll be marked high explosives or chemical. They don't want you to drop an anchor on these areas. That doesn't mean that when the ocean heats up another 35 degrees, concrete blocks that protect the exterior world of these previous horrors will be unleashed. In Fukushima, the nuclear radioactive treated water will seem like a distant past compared to the nightmare that we will be faced as we dumped all of these from the coastline all the way out into the middle of the ocean. Trying to find it, I have the sailing chart somewhere. It's pretty unreal when you think about dams and how long concrete is rated for that. Usually 30, 40 years maybe. After that, they gotta be completely destroyed and demolished. Can't fix it. So these areas underneath, what if, let's say, a ship that does nothing but just float around and vacuum up sand, vacuums up a number of these areas. It's too many conditions for failure. And the sea being all one temperature all around, the same as food we eat. If it's all one solid color, it's probably not good for you. This is 90 degrees Fahrenheit, 90 degrees Fahrenheit, Gulf of Mexico, Gulf of California, Gulf of Tonkin, Gulf of Tonkin, Persian Gulf. It's these failures, this cascading of will cascade further and further out as the currents all become different due to the ocean being more than just one temperature. This is more what we're talking about here. The types of failures of humanity, failures of our species to give a damn about the children we have, futures they might be robbed of, or having a chance at becoming a person. This is more or less what I was referring to with temperatures changing to the point that they create dead blooms. An unusually dense plankton bloom off the eastern coast of Thailand is creating an aquatic dead zone, threatening the livelihood of local fishermen who farm mussels in the waters. 300 plots, 80% of most 300 plots have been affected. Marine scientists say some areas in the Gulf of Thailand have more than 10 times the normal amount of plankton, turning the water a bright green and killing off marine life. This is the first time that I've seen it so bad. It is very severe. Plankton blooms happen 1 or 2 times a year and typically last 2 to 3 days. They can produce toxins, harm the environment, kill marine life, depleting the oxygen, and blocking sunlight because they get so dense. The plankton blooms can produce toxins and deplete water of oxygen. And Bury's coasts are famous for their mussel farms, and more than 80% of almost 300 plots in the area have been affected. While the cause of the intense plankton bloom remains unclear, scientists believe pollution and the intense heat caused by climate change are to blame. El Nino causes drought and higher sea temperatures, which interesting to address El Nino here is when I was growing up, El Nino was once a year. You would hear it as a joke because okay, it's coming. Australia has experienced La Nina probably 30 times a month. What are we doing? This is not difficult to understand. That systems and cycles and process that take away heat, channel heat away from environments that it could get trapped, no longer can escape. This builds up energy. This builds up steam. This builds up excess heat. Heat that touches the side of the sea wall that warms the water in the ground itself. It is not just the ocean getting warmer. It is a rising sea temperature that executes billions of marine mammals, fish, shellfish boiled alive within their shells. There's no safe place to go, and some of these animals can be hundreds of years old. Our human hubris has taken over to the point that we believe that Persian Gulf being 92 fucking degrees Fahrenheit isn't going to kill everything and drive everything away like a plague. Because who's going to live next to a dead ocean? Think we've seen migrant climate refugees? We haven't seen shit. Millions of people are already climate refugees. Here about 6,000 there, 7,000 here, 5,000 on a boat. They have nowhere to go. Through war, famine, disease, and also climate change. Tens of thousands of people have to continually make a new trek every week because they have nowhere else to go. This is not getting any better. This is getting worse. We are actively making it worse by laughing in the face of everyone that told you so. No one wants to play this game. No one wants to say I told you so, because that means my family die. Fucking get it? People, innocent people that do not have this responsibility to make these decisions are going to be harmed. Communities and lives ruined for generations. This generation born after 2000 might not know fishing. Think about that. No fishing. Not that there's a moratorium on fishing, a ban on fishing, but there's nothing to fish. You can spend all your time out there as an old man on the sea. Catch nothing for days because everything is dead. Not everything floats to the surface, not everything tries to head the shallow waters and panic. It is simply death. Pressure changes in the environment, snapping marine lives. We have about 1,500 pilot whales that wash up among various shores along New Zealand, being a huge, was it about 41 pilot whales that washed up in that Tasmanian island. The pilot whales constantly wash up in the New York Harbor area. They're dying. It's not because they are struggling to swim or they get tired. Every animal, every whale that what we refer to as beaching is already dying. It's already dead. It might be a number of reasons, but breathing in hot water, hotter than any water than that they probably have been faced with. They can swim as much as they want, they can't escape it. Having to drink only boiling water and breathe only the air that's near boiling. This is what we're looking at. 2 years ago, in the Pacific Northwest, the heat dome up here killed people. We're losing permafrost more than ever before. And we are seeing anthrax, natural anthrax, in elephants and buffalo. In Wood Buffalo National Park, which is Canada's largest national park, many buffalo have died this year of anthrax poisoning due to it just being present in the ground, being burned out. If the fire reaches a point in the ground where the disease lives, it's going to come out. The disease lives everywhere. But at 90 degrees, we're going to see massive plankton blooms that steal oxygen to the point that animals aren't going to have a chance. Oxygen breathing animals, 10, 12 seconds without oxygen before passing out and dying. This generation of children are not going to know whales. They're going to look at us and know, how did you fuck this up? A whale can live 500 years. How did you fuck this up so bad? And we'll have to tell them, we don't know. It just started getting worse, and next thing we know, it's all bad. No, we've seen this coming for years. This is not doom and gloom. I'm not casting a horrifying prediction. This is happening right fucking now. These waters are intensely hot, and they're only heating up more. This heat death spreads, and death blooms. It's okay to be angry, but we need to know who to be angry at. Anybody? Nobody? Is it just our whole species is a failure, so we have to all take it in stride? These waters are only going to be completely inhospitable to life as we know it. Do we think that something else is going to take all the niche places that these critters have found themselves? How many years it will take for whales to repopulate? As they begin to advance further into extinction, their numbers will become smaller as well as themselves, as they are motivated to have children earlier, or just babies. But whales, babies, shark, everything needs to learn and everything needs to be taught. And under the conditions that we are seeing here, with especially in the Antarctic, as I've posted many videos, many hours spent over this area alone, with a ice patch the size of Argentina that is gone. In the satellite imagery, you can see a large population of emperor penguins. And then the sea ice is no longer there and they're all gone. The sea ice collapsed and crumpled around the penguins while they were giving life, raising chicks. None of the chicks survived. It is probably one of the worst examples of the sixth mass extinction occurring right now, when you start seeing 90% of a species young failing to be raised past 1 year. Nothing is black and white. One whale sorry about that. Still a low pressure system that's hammering all this rain, and I don't even know anymore. How much more can we talk about what we're seeing here? Not just what we know is going to happen, not trying to predict or forecast, just taking what's available right now and going, we're fucked. I don't want to believe it. I don't want my family to be sentenced to this kind of doom. This isn't anything anybody wants to believe. Our Falkland Islands completely without ice. Oh, just now let's see. Find some scans. There's not anything else. Satellite. You just stare at the lake. This is the #1 area to watch out for, the Persian Gulf. Unreal temperatures. Like, this is a crisis. But this isn't going to become a crisis for some time until we see mass death. Death blooms. Death everywhere. Communities that rely on fish, they all die. I'm not ready for 2 to 3 billion lives lost when everything could have been prevented for years. This hindsight is going to haunt us as a species going forward. Our children, our generations ahead of this, are not going to know fishing, not going to know hunting. They're not going to know pets. You understand? This is not just your life. Billions of lives. Tens of billions of lives. Because we have to agree that a lot of other animals on this planet are both sapient and sentient. We don't like to think that because of all the horror that we commit. But when I was young, I was taking out the trash. I lifted up a bag off the ground, and there were 2 black crickets. I was little, and I panicked and I dropped the bag, and ended up crushing one of the crickets. The other cricket, which I immediately, even at that age, knew that it had to have been its mate, began jumping at my leg, thought that its mate was just crushed, thinking that because they were the same color as the bags of trash that they would be blended and safe. No one's safe. There is not going to be anywhere on the planet that's safe. As the water heats up along the equator, it's going to spread out and it's going to cause more ice melt. More and more ice melt. The Pacific Northwest heats up. Permafrost is lost. You can see here on the southern tip of Greenland. A lot of new fresh water that's being navigated out of these streams. And these lakes here, these chlorophyll strong little lakes that are up in these areas that where all this water is going to flow down and knock all that water out, and it's going to mix So these plankton blooms are going to be able to cheat into the sea. Tremendous fires still burn. Tremendous fires. I've never seen such disaster. There are fires all over northwest Canada, the Northwest Territories in Canada. Canada's largest national park burning. The Northern Rockies are in flames. I haven't heard other people say this before. The Northern Rockies are in flames. These are terrible statements to make. They are absolutely true because it is happening right now. Not a forecast or prediction. It is unbearable to see. A world flat. 100 years ago, the tallest tree in the United States was over 900 feet. Now, I believe the tallest tree is under 300 feet. This is a pattern that clearly has been noticed before, but the amount of these plant extinction spreads out just like it does in the seas, and nothing can breathe because everything's surrounded by smoke. Except underwater, it doesn't need smoke, it just needs a high temperature that's going to melt your gills or boil you alive in your shell. We'll get boiled alive in our shells. These fires are unstoppable. There is nothing modern man is capable of doing to put out these fires. They have been burning all year and they're starting up again massively. Over 6 firefighters have died in British Columbia alone this year, making it the deadliest firefighter season of all time. Not even detailing injuries, just other freak occurrences, tree falls. Hearing just panic. But what do we do? Just let the ice kill us, breathe in the smoke, let it melt our face. Here's more of water problems as all this terrible smoke, pollution, rancid wildlife death gets trapped in these waters, massively pollutes the lakes. They don't recover. Everything in the lake dies. Not just the Gulf of this, Gulf of that, lake here, lake that, river over there. Water death. Peak water. We're using firefighting foam, the pink stuff, the PFAS stuff that's giving firefighters testicular cancer at advanced rates that we're not going to be able to keep up with firefighters. We've lost too much experience. Now there's a gap. There's a gap in every section, every sphere of the world has a gap now. You have a gap of industry workers, gap of, name it, fisheries, any of the old cultural traditions that are gone around the world. Absolutely unreal amount of burning still in the Northwest Territories around Yellowknife and Fort Smith. I believe Hay River was completely destroyed. The fires still surround Yellowknife, a very important city. As time, take a look. The area that's going to have experienced disaster that we've never seen before. We're just going to see this, and whatever happens in the Persian Gulf, we know that's what's going to happen in the Gulf of Mexico, the Gulf of Tonkin, the Gulf of California. Each one increases in temperature to a uniform 90 degrees. Death blooms. Thank you for watching.